I watched episode one of Stephen King's The Stand miniseries. It's on CBS All Access, which is a platform that does not have a very good reputation right now. It's had three not particularly well liked Star Trek incarnations. Um, Below Deck, the animated one, Picard, and Discovery. And it had The Twilight Zone, Jordan Peele's The Twilight Zone, which is, according to ratings, the worst of all the incarnations of The Twilight Zone. So CBS All Access kind of needed to hit here. There are all these streaming services popping up, and people need a reason to want to pay for your subscription service. And I'm gonna say, like, this was the reason I was interested. This is the first time I've had any interest in CBS All Access. So Stephen King's The Stand is one of my favorite books. It's probably in the top five, certainly in the top 10. The Stand and It are kind of pretty close for me as far as what my favorite Stephen King novel is. I think I like It a little bit more, but it's really close. And I'm just more of a horror guy, and The Stand isn't strictly speaking horror. It's kind of hard to put it into a genre, really. But The Stand is a really good book. The Stand exists in two forms: the abridged version, which was the original release because the publisher was worried that it was too long, and the unabridged. The unabridged is about 100 pages longer. And the big difference there is that a lot of it's just little scene extensions here and there. Like one character, the trash can man, gets raped in the unabridged version by a character called the Kid, who was supposed to be played by Marilyn Manson in this miniseries, but apparently CBS, like the publisher, felt that we didn't need to see the trash can man get raped. So that character was cut, and the Marilyn Manson was cut along with it. But the big difference in the unabridged version is it makes it clear that Randall Flagg, the novel's villain, is defeated but not vanquished. He's still a thing. And that's important because Randall Flagg is a major part of Stephen King's mythology. He's the man in black. He's essentially pretty close to being the devil, basically. Like, not in a Judeo Christian sense, but just in the sense that he's kind of this interdimensional evil being that thrives on chaos. So, this miniseries is going to be 9 parts, apparently. It was really supposed to be 10, but they cut one. I don't know if that was budgetary or what. But so we're supposed to get 9 of these, and episode one dropped, and this is going to be a weekly episodic deal. I think that the whole season drop thing is pretty much dead. Netflix will probably still do it, but I think most other platforms are moving away from it. Because if you think about it, why make a 9-hour series that the people are just going to talk about for a week versus make a 2-hour movie that people are going to talk about for a week? But it's not really a good business model. So I get why things are going weekly, and it doesn't bother me, honestly. I don't binge stuff. I don't have time to binge stuff. So I mean, even if this had dropped all 9 episodes at once, I still would have probably only watched one or two a week. But yeah, of course, The Stand has been filmed once before. In '95, it was released as a miniseries with Mick Garris directing it. Mick Garris is a big buddy of Stephen King's. He's done several Stephen King adaptations. He did Desperation, which is about as good as the book, which is to say the beginning's good and the end it just isn't that good after about the halfway point. Bag of Bones, which I've never read, and I didn't see the miniseries because it just didn't interest me. Um, Riding the Bullet, which is not a miniseries, it's just a TV movie. And The Shining, the miniseries version of The Shining. And then he did one theatrical film, Sleepwalkers, the notorious cat movie. I actually like Sleepwalkers, but it is cheesy. So the '95 Stand was all right. Like, it had a huge production budget. It was a very big event, but it was kind of hokey and kind of cheesy. And I mean, TV movies, even the best TV movies aren't going to age well just because they're not made on the same level as a theatrical film. The original It, as good as it was in the time, has not aged well at all. If you try and watch the original miniseries of It, it's kind of hard. But that said, I think this was a good project. I think it was cool. And I remember, I'm not familiar with the director. Apparently, most of his resume is rom-coms, actually. So, but he did a good job. This is a very good-looking series. The cinematography, the production design, just the style and scope of it is really impressive. The cast is very solid. It's led by James Marsden and Alexander Skarsgård. Now, James Marsden he's not an A-lister and he's not a B-lister. He's kind of a B-plus lister. Like, he's one of those people who's so good looking, it's almost to their detriment. kind of like a Megan Fox or something, where they're so good looking that you kind of have a hard time casting them as regular people. Because James Marsden looks like a male model. He's always looked like a male model. Going back to the first thing I saw him in, that '90s teen version of the Stepford Wives, Disturbing Behavior, which I actually like. But so he's never really been a top build actor. He rarely is anyway. But he's also never seemed to struggle for work. He did a lot of he did the X-Men movies as Cyclops. He did a lot of rom-coms in the 2000s, and he did some comedies. Then he did Westworld over on HBO, which I saw the first season. I didn't see the second season because I didn't like the way the first season ended. And from what I hear, I didn't miss anything. But he's coming off of Westworld and success of the first season anyway, and he brought his accent with him, but he's still doing the Western twang thing here. And Alexander Skarsgård, also off an HBO series, the R-rated version of Twilight, basically True Blood. I did not watch that show, but I knew girls that watched it who were just in love with the men on that show. Him, Moyer, Mangan, the werewolf. Manganiello, I think is how you say his name, Joe Manganiello. So I've really only seen Alexander Skarsgård in one thing, and that was the Straw Dogs remake with James Marsden. And I didn't love him in that movie, but he seems to be fine in this. He's not in the first episode much. You only see him for a couple seconds, well, like a minute. This first episode is weird. So this show is getting mostly B minuses. That seems to be the consensus, both critics and audiences. It's like a B minus show. And while I would go much higher than that if I was to give it a rating, I get it. Because this first episode is just makes the strange decision to be out of sequence. I have no idea why they're doing this. It's like they're trying to be Lost or something. I thought the Lost clones died in the right as the 2000s were ending. I think we still got a couple after the early 2000s ended. Like around 2012 was when the Lost clones ended. I mean, for God's sake, Stephen King's already had his own TV series, Lost knockoff, when they adapted Under the Dome to a TV series. That was a Lost knockoff. The book wasn't. The book was good, but the TV series was pretty much of a disaster after the first season. I think it ran for 3. But yeah, this it's jumps all over the place. It starts after the viral Captain Trips has decimated the population. That's what this is about. Of course, Stephen King has described The Stand as Stephen King writes the Old Testament, meaning Stephen King presents a harsh and unforgiving God and a classical struggle between good and evil. You have good, you have evil. Nothing. There's no need to discuss anything in between. It's binary. And that's very much what this story is about. It's about Mother Abigail, I think is her name, played by Whoopi Goldberg, and Randall Flagg. So Mother Abigail represents good and the good faction of humanity that survives this massive viral outbreak, and Randall Flagg represents the evil. And she's set up in I don't know, Nebraska or something, and he's set up in Vegas. So I mean honestly, if the devil came to the United States, he'd probably want to hang out in Vegas. I love Vegas. It's so much fun there. I would honestly probably be with Randall Flagg's faction. But if I survive the disease, because the gag of the thing is that the American military created a virus that has a 99% kill rate. 99% of the people die, they get it. And for comparison to what's going on right now, 0.02% of people that get corona die. So this is catastrophic. This is end of the world territory. This is everyone in your neighborhood is going to be dead by this disease. That's how rare it is to survive it. And that's what this episode is essentially about. It's about a few people that are immune. The 3 of the main characters. Stewart, played by James Marsden, who's the guy who's at ground zero of the epidemic outbreak. See, what happens is someone I don't know, zigged when they should have zagged, and the virus gets out in this military base, and one guy manages to break out. He grabs his family, he hopes, just hope, that he's immune or he's not going to get it. He has it. He grabs his family, he breaks the quarantine of the military base, and he immediately crashes his damn car into a small town gas station, 100 miles away, immediately, not immediately, it's 100 miles away. but he's had plenty of time to just spread this disease everywhere he goes as he went. And James Marsden is the first person the American military finds that has an immunity. Out of the people that encountered this guy, that they know encountered this guy, he's the only one that survives. And so you get that, but that's all out of sequence. Like you see James Marsden's character Pete in military quarantine, then you see the wrecked the gas station wreck a little bit later. Then at the end of the episode, you see the damn guy escape from the military base, which I thought was kind of cute that Randall Flagg sort of helped him escape. He was the one that jammed the door open, so he got out. It was a cute idea. I don't think that was in the book. I really don't. It's been a while since I read that book, and it is a very long book, so it's entirely possible. I just forgot that. But I don't think so. But yeah, so and then you get the story of Harold and Franny, which is kind of the meat of this episode. Now, the impression I get is this is going to be one of those shows where each episode is about introducing a character. So you're just going to kind of get a whole character's arc per episode. And this was basically the Harold episode. This very much focuses on the character of Harold, a frustrated high school loser wannabe writer, played by Owen Teague. Now, I recognized this kid when I saw him on the show, and I was like, oh man, I know this kid. I know I've seen him in something. He was the bully. I can't remember the character's name, but the bully in the movie of it. It Chapter 1. He was the bully that had the lighter and wanted to light the kids on fire, presumably. He ends up getting his face burned off, then Pennywise kills his ass, and he comes back as a zombie in It Chapter 2. That's him. That's him. I like this kid. That's all I've seen him in. I looked at his resume, but I like him. And he's great in this episode. He easily steals the episode, but it's kind of an episode about him, so that's not really saying very much. He's very good at playing this character who you can't decide if you like him. Like, you feel bad for him because he has a really crappy life, but at the same time, he's so off that you're not sure if you're looking at Charlie Brown or a school shooter. Like is this guy just kind of awkward and is he gonna grow up to be a really great guy, or is this guy gonna snap and blow his school up? Like he feels like he could go either way, and the actor plays that very well. And the actress playing Franny, who is his former babysitter, she's a bit older than him, and is Odessa Young. Now I recognize that name, but I looked at her resume and I didn't see anything, so I have no idea. Maybe I'm just wrong. But she's very good. I liked her a lot. She's very she's talented. I like her performance. She's playing the classic girl next door. She's just this poor girl whose mom died, and then her dad catches Captain Trips, dies right away. Even that was edited weird because you don't see it. You see her with him, and he coughs, and then later you just see her digging a grave. It's like, damn, we just jumped way the hell ahead. But her character has a backstory that I guess I won't give away because I don't know how many people watching this won't know the books. But I know what's going on with her character, and the actress is playing it well. And I like the Harold and Franny dynamic introduced in this. The scene where Harold is essentially convincing Franny to live rather than die. I love that scene. It's done to the tune of Ozzy Osbourne's ballad, "Goodbye to Romance," I believe is the name of that song. And I had to look it up because I couldn't remember for sure if that was Ozzy's song or if he was doing the cover, but it is Ozzy's song. And it plays really well, and it's you want to like Harold. You're like, oh man, I hope this guy goes good. I hope this guy is a decent guy. And aside from that, you're just getting this whole backstory on Stu, who's the main character. So I feel like we're probably not going to lose him too much. We're probably going to get plenty of Stu. And Whoopi Goldberg's only in this for a couple of minutes too. She does this opening narration. That's fine. Whoopi Goldberg's a little distracting, but that's because she made such a spectacle of herself in the 90s when I was a kid growing up that I kind of have a hard time respecting her because she made some god-awful movies in the 90s. Like, just trash. She did one where she was like cop and her partner was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, I think, or something stupid like that. And she did one where she was in disguise as an old white man. She did some dumb shit in the 90s. It was impressive how bad some of her movies got. So it's a little distracting seeing her in this, but I'll probably get used to it, I guess. It's not going to ruin the thing for me. So the thing that I feel like people aren't liking, and I can understand this, is how out of sequence it is and how much it jumps around. Because the cast is really good. You even get J.K. Simmons in this. He has a cameo as the guy in charge of the military quarantine where James Marsden is put. You get a vocal cameo from Bryan Cranston, Walter White himself, Breaking Bad. as the president of the United States. That was just his voice, and I feel like they probably tried to get him to do the J.K. Simmons role, and he was like, "All right, $5 million." It's like, "All right, we can't afford that. Could you just read this and we'll just say you're the president?" But it was cool hearing Bryan Cranston. It took me a second to realize that was him. That's Walter White. But yeah, the acting, everything's really on point. But this how jumpy it is. It's so weird. It starts after I almost called it the pandemic. After the Captain Trips had destroyed the world. So I was sitting there thinking like, are they doing this? Are they just going to start after the virus? And what I was thinking was maybe they thought it would be too much for people to watch a virus destroy the United States in the current year. So they were just going to start after it. And I was like, that's going to cut out a lot of character development. That's going to be hard to do. And then they do 5 months early. It's like, that's such a played out cliche at this point. Why? And then the way they do Stewart's story, the James Marsden character story, where they keep jumping around, it's just awkward. And I feel like, oh god! And then at the end, when it jumps way the hell ahead, to where, okay, light spoilers for this episode. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it, then come back. 3, 2, 1. When it jumps way the hell ahead, and Stewart and Franny are already a couple, it's like, damn, you're giving that away in episode 1 that these two are gonna end up together. That is a bizarre fucking choice. Why would you do that? It's just such a huge leap to make and such a weird thing to give away. And I feel like I would have been confused by this if I hadn't read the book. I feel like I would have had a hard time following this if I hadn't read the book. So like I said, I get the B minus rating, but I think people should stick with it because I think that there's a lot here that could go the right way. And based on the way they introduced the Man in Black with the whorehouse neon lights leading to Vegas, which was funny. So I really want to see Randall Flagg take over Vegas. I want to see what this show does with that because it could be really cool. So we only get introduced to a few of the main characters here. We're very notably missing major characters like the deaf mute kid, Nick. Nick. We're missing Nick. We're missing his mentally challenged sidekick. We're missing the rock star guy. We're missing the evil bitch Nadine, who was played by Amber Heard. So typecast. If you've been paying attention to the tabloids, you know Amber Heard is the redhead from Aquaman. She's actually blonde. It's a pretty awful person. And some people are like, boycott the show, support Johnny Depp. It's like, Johnny Depp's rich. Amber Heard's probably only going to be in a third of this, if even that much. Just get over it. This is obviously not helping her career. Like the fact that she went from being an Aquaman to a few episodes of a miniseries on CBS All Access. Point laugh at her for failing. Like this is way below where she wants to be in her career right now. So I think this is going to be cool. And one thing this did is it integrated humor well. A lot of times I feel like now things can't do that. They get too jokey and it undermines the seriousness of the situation. Like you can certainly have humor. My second favorite movie of all time is Reservoir Dogs, and that has some very, very funny lines in it. But it never broke the tension of the situations, and a lot of times I feel like that is. The first time I noticed it and really hated it was in Gone Girl, the David Fincher adaptation. Because Gone Girl, the book, has humor in it. Gone Girl, the book, absolutely does, but it's very subtle, dark humor. And the movie was going for, like, sitcom laughs. The scene where Ben Affleck's standing outside that shed where his wife had set up all the stuff to make him look guilty of her disappearance, and the cops are questioning him, he's sitting there like, I am going to jail, jail, jail. And then completely breaking all the tension and suspense, the little stupid robot dog walks by. It's like, okay, I didn't realize I was watching Modern Family right now. I've been seeing that a lot lately. Star Wars The Last Jedi was a major offender on that. Speaking of Ben Affleck, the Justice League movie was a major offender on that, where the humor just constantly breaks the tension of the film. But here, it worked. The funniest scene, not just in this, but the funniest scene I've seen in a while, was when Harold is trying to present himself as a nice guy. So he's modeling after Tom Cruise, and he's looking at the picture of Tom Cruise smiling in the pit, and then trying to imitate that toothy Tom Cruise smile. And I think that's actually hilarious because Christian Bale modeled his performance as Patrick Bateman in American Psycho after Tom Cruise. Also, Christian Bale described Tom Cruise's personality as aggressively friendly, which I totally can see. I don't know if Christian Bale knew Tom Cruise personally at the time, but presumably they were both in Hollywood, so he would have at least encountered him. So I think that's great that Harold is imitating Tom Cruise, like, "Hey, how you doing, guy?" Like that was great. That was really really funny to me. So aside from that, I'm very hopeful about this. I hope that they get a little bit more linear with it. I get that they're going to basically do a character an episode, so we're not going to get a linear story. It's going to be each character's story. But I hope it doesn't jump around within the story at least, because that's distracting and it makes it hard to follow, especially for people that don't know the book. And if you don't know the book, read the book. It's fantastic. It's long, but it's fantastic. Or just get the audiobook and listen to it on your drive to work. I highly recommend Stephen King's The Stand. I think it's a fantastic novel. It's his second best work, and considering how much great stuff he wrote in the '80s, it's really outstanding. Also, weirdly, his son, Stephen King isn't directly involved in this. He wrote the original miniseries, but this he's not directly involved in. But his son, Owen King, is. He's not a writer, but he's a producer. And this isn't the son that is a writer. Owen King, to my knowledge, has only written one novel and was co-written with his father. It was called Sleeping Beauties. I have it, but I never read it. But Stephen King's other son, Joe Hill, goes by the pseudonym Joe Hill. I don't know what he was born as. He's the published author. He's the one that wrote Nosferatu, which was turned into that show on AMC. He wrote Horns, which was turned into a movie directed by Alexandria Aja. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. So Joe, this isn't the son that's the author. This is the other one. But I feel like he's maybe quality control. And another thing I really like about this is that it doesn't feel to me like it's preachy at all. You know, obviously a lot of stuff now has quote unquote gone woke, and it just makes it feel preachy and annoying, even to people that agree with it. Like Black Christmas 2019, I talked about that in the video I did on Black Christmas 2019. Even people on the left found that movie annoying. People on the right found it intolerable. It's tired. It's played out. Like the worst thing this does, if that bothers you, is it race and gender swaps a few characters. But at this point, really complaining about that is just petty. Like, who cares anymore? If it's not an iconic character, if it's not James Bond, if it's not Batman, if it's not Wonder Woman, if it's not John Shaft, who cares? Yeah, you can race swap or gender swap basically anyone in this, and no one's really going to care except for Randall Flagg. And I'd say Alexander Skarsgard's appearance as Randall Flagg is pretty spot on. I mean, they had to modernize it because Randall Flagg was depicted as kind of a hippie in Stephen King's novel. I assume that was based. I think he drew some inspiration from Charles Manson on that because he called himself the Walking Dude, and he was supposed to be walking around in like a denim jacket with a bunch of buttons on it. And here he's depicted more like a cowboy, which I think is gonna work. It's anyway. I'm excited to see where this goes. I hope that it continues to do well. Uh, yeah, I'm interested, and I think people should give it a shot. Just be prepared. Just pay attention. Just don't put this on as something you're going to watch while you're cooking or something. Put this on when you have an hour to pay attention to it, and I think you'll be able to follow it just fine. That's all I got.